It's not often relevant to talk about Elon Musk on my channel. He's kind of doing a lot of insane stuff, but mostly it's like, okay, you're just being dumb on Twitter, right? We talked about him telling J.K. Rowling that she needs to maybe go outside or maybe post some nice positive things on Twitter instead of constantly talking about trans people. But it's kind of rich coming from him because we've known for a while that he has a trans kid. Like I think that she's an adult now, but like his kid is a trans woman. And we've kind of suspected for a really long time that, you know, him being upset about his kid being trans might be a big contributing factor to why he is so deranged and why he is allowing hateful content toward trans people on the Twitter platform, and why he has censored the word cis, which is just a word that means not trans. Like, cis means on the same side. So your gender is on the same side as what you were assigned at birth, whereas trans means on the other side, you know? Vivian is 20. Yeah, 20-ish. So finally, Elon Musk is speaking out about what happened with his kid who, you know, he's like, oh, my kid is trans and I don't like it. My kid's dead to me kind of stuff, you know? So there's a little video and I thought we would watch the video. And then Vivian herself has actually spoken out. We're seeing coverage. She posted on Twitter, she's posted on Threads, and now she has given an exclusive interview with NBC. So yeah, let's talk about this. Let's get into it. I want to know what this post is where he's talking about, oh, blah, 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 my son is gone, whatever. So let's check it out.
I mean, well, it sort of like the nameless issue. It happened to one of my older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. You know, I was told, oh, Xavier might commit suicide if he did. That was a lie right from the outset. No
Jordan Peterson. Oh my God.
reliable clinician ever believed that. There was never any evidence for that. And also, if there's a higher suicide rate, the reason is because of the underlying depression and anxiety, and not because of the gender dysphoria.
What a moron. Okay, so Jordan Peterson is like, I think he's trained as a psychologist, but he was a professor, and now he is an activist and grifter, who has never specifically studied this issue. So like, the reason why trans people have a higher rate of attempted suicide than the general population is because of the social ramifications of not being accepted and not being allowed to be themselves. I know it's enraging just seeing Jordan Peterson and for him to just be like, I'm going to assert a bunch of untrue, stupid, because yeah, there's like the reason why there are comorbid issues for trans people is because of the lack of social acceptance. I think he lost his license to practice. Yeah, so just, you know, assert some completely incorrect things. You're a non-practicing psychologist and you haven't specialized in this particular thing. And yeah, there is the reason why there's comorbidities is typically because people treat you badly if you're trans. It's not like the other things cause you to be trans or cause your gender dysphoria or whatever. Like, oh my God, I forgot that Jordan Peterson was part of this conversation. Anyway, we're talking about Elon Musk.
And every goddamn clinician knows that too. And they're too cowardly to come out and say it.
Sure.
Right. And so and then we end up in exactly, when I saw that lie start to propagate, it just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It's like, I see. So you're telling parents that unless they agree to this radical transformation that their children are going to die, and you think that's moral, and you think that's true. That is so pathological that it's almost incomprehensible. I can't imagine anything worse. I can't imagine a therapist doing anything worse than that, or sitting by idly and remaining silent while his colleagues are doing it. It's pathetic.
Apparently Jordan Peterson lost his license to practice because he repeatedly lied to his clients and ditched them to do TV appearances to the degree that he traumatized them. Yeah. Good going. Congratulations.
It's incredibly evil, and I agree with you that
evil.
people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
It won't stop.
People who've been promoting this should go to prison, Elon says. Like, if you encourage trans kids to be themselves, and if you encourage parents to support them and give them puberty pausing medication, which only gives them time to be further examined by medical professionals, it doesn't cause any changes for the most part. Like, it pauses things, and if you remove the medication, it resumes. Elon Musk thinks that you should be in prison for that. In prison. And his views are more extreme than just that. We will get to that in a moment.
Till that happens.
Yeah.
It'll just go underground. Puberty blockers are being accessed online by kids all the time through non-medical channels. So
I don't actually know if that's the case, but
yeah. Okay, so I see. So that's
so I was tricked into doing this, and it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. So
why are you concerned about this? Elon is so weird. Why are you he has like 9 kids, doesn't he? He has like numerous children. Why is he so worried about his kids' fertility? Why are you worried about the fertility of a 16-year-old? But again, as I say every goddamn time we have this conversation, if you're so concerned about their fertility, then just include gamete preservation as part of the transition process. A 16-year-old could store sperm if you're that worried. But like, yeah, the puberty pausing medication in and of itself doesn't necessarily cause sterilization. Yeah, you remain fertile if you just stop taking them. Like, they only worry about this with trans people, or they only make up this with trans people. Do puberty pausing medications cause sterilization in cis kids with precocious puberty? Yeah, they help with certain hormone receptive cancers. Like, just so much misinformation. I cover this all the time. So it's like, how many times do I need to go over the same lies that y'all are going to propagate?
So, anyway, and so I lost my son, essentially. So, they call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
all right, so the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
So this is like why he's determined. That's why he bitches about the woke mind virus, that his son was killed by the woke mind virus. I can understand, parents are deeply involved. Like, they have this imagined future for their children, So like, on some level, I can kind of understand why a parent might feel like, I was always looking, like, if a mom is like, I was looking forward to passing my wedding dress along to my daughter, but then my daughter came out as trans, and so now I'm kind of mourning that potential future or whatever. So, like, I kind of understand. You have an imagined future. You want your kid to have an easy life. You know that being trans is going to be a more difficult life. And so maybe there is a process where you have to work through that. That's a thing that you work through with your real therapist, though, not Jordan Peterson. And the problem there is when it stops there. If you're like, my son is dead, instead of going, I am gaining a daughter. You could view this as a positive thing, as, my child is going to be so much happier and healthier. I'm gaining a daughter. Hi, I'm Alexander, and this is Mitternacht. You should hit the like button and subscribe and check out the Patreon. And ooh, look at this hoodie I'm wearing. It's merch. Check it out. Links in the description. Thank you. Yeah, that's true. Even if your kids don't end up being trans, they're probably not going to be the person you imagine them to be. And yeah, parents get all wrapped up in, I want my kid to grow up and follow in my footsteps and do the same career I'm doing, or I want my kid to be a doctor or something. And then, yeah, there's like disappointment when your kid doesn't turn out exactly the way you want them to. That's because they're their own person and you can't project onto them Guys like this think therapy is just for crazy people. The problem is that people like this think that this is sanity. That's part of the problem here. Also, literally no one is making my transition difficult except for my parents. Yeah, sometimes parents are the most difficult part of transitioning. This conversation sounds AI generated. Oh gosh. So this is kind of the initial response that I saw was, this is apparently Vivian's account on Twitter. And so it seems that she has said, the last thing my dad ever said to me before I cut off all contact with him was, "You killed my son. Don't call back here, bitch." So he gets half a star for properly gendering. A lot of transphobia is really just parenting by people. She says, I want to make something really clear. I'm happy, and according to what my sisters have told me, his life sucks. If I get a phone call saying he's on his deathbed, I'll go to the hospital decked out to the nines and show him that the bitch who killed his son is doing just fine. And that's the reality of this kind of behavior. It will be outlived. He may be the richest man alive, but he'll no doubt die waiting for phone calls that will never ring, just the same as any other dad. So that was her initial response on Twitter. She also posted a response on Threads. Yeah, who says that to their child? Like, and at that point, she would have been, I don't know, maybe like 18 when he disowned her, something along those lines. It's so much more fun and rewarding just enjoying who your kids are and encouraging them to find that person. I have a 14 and 18-year-old that are amazing because we give them the access to choose who they are and find themselves. Yeah, that is the great thing about having a kid, is like helping encourage them to find what they love in the world. Crazy. So Vivian posted on Threads, which I'm not on, but we have some screenshots. So Elon apparently tweeted that this kid, and he invokes the dead name, was born gay and slightly autistic, two attributes that contribute to gender dysphoria. Okay, sure. I knew that from when he was about 4 years old, and he would pick out clothes for me to wear like a jacket and tell me it was fabulous, as well as his love of musicals and theater, but he was not a girl. So Vivian responds saying, there's a lot of stuff I need to debunk, which I will get to, don't worry, but I want to start with what I find to be the funniest, which is the notorious slightly autistic tweet. This is going to be a bit, so just bear with me. This is entirely fake. Like, literally none of this ever happened, ever. I don't even know where he got this from. My best guess is that he went to the Milo Yiannopoulos School of Gay Stereotypes, picked some at random, and said, good enough, in a last-ditch attempt to garner sympathy points when he is so obviously in the wrong, even in his own story. I did not have a, quote, love of musicals and theater when I was 4 years old because, you know, I was 4. I did not know what those things were. My earliest real experience with musicals was when my twin brother had a Hamilton phase in 8th and 9th grade and overplayed it so much in the car to the point where for a long time I swore off the entire genre. I never picked out jackets for him to wear, and I was most certainly not calling them fabulous because, what the F? I did not use the word fabulous when I was 4 because, again, I would like to reiterate, I was 4. This is so obvious I don't even think it warrants explanation, but apparently people believe this nonsense, so here I am. This entire thing is completely made up, and there's a reason for this. He doesn't know what I was like as a child because he quite simply wasn't there. And in the little time that he was, I was relentlessly harassed for my femininity and queerness. Obviously, he can't say that, so I've been reduced to a happy little stereotype, F-word, to use at his discretion. I think that says a lot about how he views queer people and children in general. As for if I'm not a woman, sure, Jan, whatever you say. I'm legally recognized as a woman in the state of California, and I don't concern myself with the opinions of those who are beneath me. Obviously, Elon can't say the same, because in a ketamine-fueled haze, he's desperate for attention and validation from an army of degenerate red-pilled incels and pick-me's who are quick to give it to him. Go touch grass. And someone says, extremely shocked to hear this D-bag is a liar. Hope you're not too bothered by what he says about you. Vivian responds saying, I'm not, LOL. I've just started to find it funny at this point, because calling me dead on a podcast with Jordan Peterson of all people, while basically admitting you have zero reading comprehension by saying you were, quote, tricked into signing documents that you read over multiple times, is basically a parody of itself. Like, it's honestly camp. So yeah, Vivian would have been like 16. So if Vivian is 20 now, then it was like, when COVID started, that was 4 or 5 years ago. So Vivian would have been 15 or 16 when they gave her hormone blockers. And so, like she would remember very clearly. So if he read the documents and he was supposed to have read them multiple times, signed them with an understanding of the health risks, and Vivian at that point is basically old enough to give medical consent on their own. Yeah, parents, I give you choices. Kids, I want to be myself. Parents, you chose wrong. Oh my God, true. Back in the 2000s, people would say, if you're gay, you are a girl. And now in the 2020s, if you're a trans girl, you're just gay. Love how we came full circle. Right. It's crazy how often that happens where, you know, if you act even slightly effeminate as a person who's assigned male, they're like, God, you're just a girl, aren't you? But then you grow up and maybe you realize you're trans and you transition into a girl and they're like, you're such a man. Like, okay. I love her calling out his reading comprehension. Yeah, what an admission. If you read over this documentation multiple times and you still think, oh, I was tricked, like, did you not read the documents? Apparently he was so not invested in his children's lives. It would not surprise me if he just didn't bother reading it. He was like, God, I don't care, whatever, and just signed it. Let's look at the actual interview, because those were like her comments that she made on social media, but she has given an exclusive interview to NBC News. Says he berated her for being queer as a child. In an exclusive interview, Vivian Wilson said her father's recent statements, including that she is, quote, not a girl, inspired her to speak out, saying, I'm not going to let that slide. So yeah, she's 20 years old. She responded to comments that Elon Musk made Monday about her and her trans identity. Musk said that she was, quote, not a girl and was figuratively, quote, dead. He alleged that he had been tricked into authorizing trans-related medical treatment for her when she was 16. Wilson said that Musk hadn't been tricked into that, and after initially having hesitated, he knew what he was doing when he agreed to her treatment, which required consent from her parents. Vivian says, I think he was under the assumption that I wasn't going to say anything and I would just let this go unchallenged, which I'm not going to do, because if you're going to lie about me like blatantly to an audience of millions, I'm not going to let that slide. Wilson said for as long as she could remember, Musk has not been a supportive father. She said he was rarely present in her life, leaving her and her siblings to be cared for by their mother or by nannies, even though Musk had joint custody. And she said Musk berated her when he was present. She says, quote, he was cold. He was very quick to anger. He is uncaring and narcissistic. Wilson says when she was a child, Musk would harass her for exhibiting feminine traits and pressure her to appear more masculine, including by pushing her to deepen her voice as early as elementary school. She says, quote, I was in 4th grade. We went on this road trip that I didn't know was actually just an advertisement for one of the cars. I don't remember which one. And he was constantly yelling at me viciously because my voice was too high. It was cruel. So in 4th grade, you're like 9 years old. There is no puberty happening there. Like for most people, it would be considered precocious puberty to have started deepening your voice then. Like that's crazy. Musk did not respond to a request for comment on this article. Wilson and her twin brother were born to Musk's first wife, author Justine Musk. The couple divorced in 2008. Wilson said her parents shared custody between their homes in the LA area. Yeah, we know who Elon Musk is. Why do you think you need to include that information? I know who he is. Wilson has never granted an interview prior to this and has largely stayed out of public view. She attracted attention in 2022 when she sought court approval in California to change her name and in the process denounced her father. In the court filing, she said, I no longer live with or wish to be related to my biological father in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, because she changed her last name to Wilson. She says to NBC News that at that time, she was surprised by the media attention to the court filing, which she submitted at age 18. She said in the interview that she stands by what she wrote, though she said she might have tried to be more eloquent had she known the coverage it would get. Wilson says she hasn't spoken to Musk in about 4 years and that she refuses to be defined by him. Quote, I would like to emphasize one thing. I am an adult. I am 20 years old. I am not a child. My life should be defined by my own choices. Yeah, we already watched the interview where Musk talks crap about her. And yeah, we're kind of rehashing some of the comments we already saw on Threads where she's like, yeah, I've been reduced to a happy little stereotype. So yeah, after saying that his kid was killed by the woke mind virus, he says, I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that, and we're making some progress. Like, we've been speculating about this for, God, has it been years at this point? How long has it been since Elon bought Twitter? It's been forever, right? It's been forever. But we suspected that he was buying the platform specifically to reduce the impact of, you know, people having the ability to, you know, agitate politically, I'll say, to, you know, like, part of the reason why I believe the things that I believe is because you can see it firsthand on Twitter. Firsthand, I watched hundreds of videos of police riots during the BLM protests with the whole George Floyd thing a few years ago. You know, that people kept saying, oh, you know, these BLM protesters, they need to just stop being so violent. But repeatedly, I watched it firsthand. Cops starting violence against peaceful protesters. Cops firing rubber bullets directly at the face of journalists. There were like 7 journalists with very obvious press gear on. Like 7 of them lost an eye because the cops were shooting rubber bullets directly in their faces, like directly into their cameras. And yeah, like, so that is the power of Twitter. Like, that's the power of a website like that, is that we can post direct information. You can completely bypass the media narrative. It's the same thing with this Palestine stuff. You know, like, I believe what I believe about Palestine because I've seen firsthand. I've seen the inside of a child's skull. I've seen babies' bodies, like, in a state of disrepair. You know, you can't believe that Israel is the good guys if you've seen that. Yeah, rubber, ceramic bullets. Yeah, it's like ceramic on the inside and then rubber on the outside. It's called a less lethal round, and you're meant to shoot them at people's legs. You're not meant to shoot them at people's upper bodies at all. Anyway, yeah, she got rid of the Musk name. She goes by Vivian Wilson now. And yeah, so I do still believe that Elon Musk bought Twitter almost specifically to reduce the power that it has as an organizing tool or as an informational tool for anybody who doesn't agree with the establishment. You're actually meant to shoot them at the ground and bounce them into crowds for a lot of them. Yeah. Vivian was also mentioned in a biography of Musk by author Walter Isaacson, a book that she told NBC News was inaccurate and unfair to her. The book refers to her politics as, quote, radical Marxism, quoting Musk's sister-in-law, Christiana Musk, but Wilson said she's not a Marxist, though she said she does oppose wealth inequality. The book calls her by her middle name, Jenna. Wilson said Isaacson never reached out to her directly ahead of publication. In a phone interview Thursday, Isaacson said he had reached out to Wilson through family members. Christiana Musk did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Vivian says she never received an explanation for why her father spent so little time with her and her siblings, behavior that she now views as strange. She says he was there, I want to say maybe 10% of the time, and that's generous. He had half custody and he fully was not there. It was just a fact of life at the time, so I don't think I realized just how abnormal of an experience that was. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you're a kid, like, what you experience as normal, for the most part. Like, when I was a kid, I was being physically abused by my mother, and I did not experience that as normal. Like, there was part of me that was like, my mommy's being mean, and she shouldn't, you know? But, like, when it comes to a parent just being kind of absent, I did feel like it was, I guess, normal for my mom to just leave me alone on Saturdays with a long list of shit to do. Like a long list of chores. But, yeah, so, but a lot of the times you just think, oh, yeah, okay, my dad's just not here very much. I see my dad sometimes. She does say she came out twice because she came out as gay in 8th grade and then she came out as trans when she was 16. She said she does not recall Musk's response the first time and that she wasn't present when Musk heard from others that she was transgender because by then the pandemic had started and she was living full-time with her mother. About her mother, she says, she's very supportive. I love her a lot. Vivian says the pandemic was a chance to escape Musk's cruelty. Quote, when COVID hit, I was like, I'm not going over there. It was basically very lucky timing. Musk told Peterson that he'd been tricked into this. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. You have poor reading comprehension. We get it. Yeah. She says she was trying to convince him for months, but he said I had to go meet with him in person. She was texting her dad and trying to get him to co-sign on the hormone treatment or the puberty blockers or whatever. She continues, at that point, it was very clear that we both had a very distinct disdain for each other. When she eventually went and gave him the medical forms, she says that he read them at least twice, once with her and then again on his own before he signed them. He was not by any means tricked. He knew the full side effects. She said she took blockers before she switched to HRT, treatments which she said were life-saving for her and other trans people. They save lives. Let's not get that twisted. They definitely allowed me to thrive. And she comments that the requirements to obtain the treatments are still quite difficult, quite onerous, with teenagers pressured to say they're at the extreme risk of self-harm before they'll be approved. She said she felt judged by Musk and Peterson in the Monday interview for not being at a high enough risk in their eyes. This interview ends by saying, I have been basically put to a point where, to a group of people, I have to basically prove whether or not I was suicidal to warrant medically transitioning. It's mind-boggling. Yeah, you shouldn't have to be like on the verge of dying in order to get health care. That's part of why it's so bad, all of the updates with abortion, that, you know, in these places where abortion has been made illegal, except in cases where the mother could die, there is you like literally have to be septic or the hospital will not treat you. And of course, you know, women, mothers, and trans men, non-binary people, all negatively affected by this. Most often it's women, but, you know, like the idea that you have to be basically in the parking lot of the hospital waiting to become septic before they'll treat you. You shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to get care before things get that bad. And that's also true for trans people. You should not have to be like at the precipice of dying in order to get the care. So I will end on, so I mean, I guess I will not end on that. Elon Musk is a bad dad in general, because there's this other post that's been going around quite a lot from Grimes' mother. So I want to talk about this, and then I have one final thing on this subject. So this is Sandy Garosino, who is Grimes' mother, ex-wife of Elon Musk. Grimes. I can't remember her first name. Everybody just calls her Grimes. Anyway, she says, Elon, it was nice seeing you on Father's Day. I hope you got the card that I helped X make. He was so proud of it. I'm writing here as the only way I have to reach you. As you know, my 93-year-old mother is now at end-of-life palliative care. She yearns to see and hold Claire's children. Oh, is it Claire Grimes? Is it Claire? She yearns to see and hold Claire's children one last time, especially the youngest, whom she has not yet met. She was thrilled for the kids' planned visit to celebrate her birthday this weekend, today, but those hopes were crushed when the trip was canceled. I'm alarmed to learn that the children cannot come, as you are withholding them and their needed passport documents from Claire. It was even more troubling to see you and X on television at the Olympics in Paris yesterday, after your DC trip earlier in the week. Where are the other children, and with whom? They are scheduled to be with their mother. They were expected here in Canada. I write with a grandmother's plea, asking you to honor your agreement, return the children, and provide the documents they need to see their great-grandmother before she passes. Some moments in life last forever, and we get no second chances. Family is priceless. Please, Elon, I beg you, this is so painful for my mother and concerning for the kids. Time is of the essence now. So apparently he's kind of kidnapped his kids a little bit. Like, that might be a kind of, I guess, loaded term for this, but it seems that he is withholding his children from his ex-wife. Like, that they have an agreement, an arrangement, and he's withholding his children and not adequately communicating, withholding their passports and stuff. So, like, he's a bad dad. You know, he was, like, ridiculing one child for being too effeminate. And then who knows how he responded when that child came out as gay, and then obviously responded very well, like not well, when that child came out as trans. And now he's withholding his children from their mother with Grimes. Yeah, I think it would depend on if their agreement is legally binding, because it could be considered some form of kidnapping if he's keeping them during the time that they're legally supposed to be with their mom. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a legally binding agreement or not, but he's basically power tripping with his kids. It's probably illegal, but also from what I understand with parental disputes is that money talks a lot. I'm not terribly surprised by that. So the thing that I will end on is, so Elon Musk believes that if you provide this treatment to youths under the age of 18, you should be in jail. Yeah. But this final comment, oh yeah, no, so I guess this is just him like reinforcing that. James Essis says, gender ideology must be eradicated from society, and those who have been responsible for the sterilization and mutilation of children must be punished. Elon Musk says, yes. What does it mean for gender ideology to be eradicated from society? What is gender ideology? this is a call for genocide, basically. It's like Elon Musk thinks that anyone who provides blockers, puberty pausing medication to youth for any other reason besides precocious puberty, like that they must be punished. And then he agrees with the statement, gender ideology must be eradicated from society. What would you need to do in order to eradicate this from society? We've talked about this before with Michael Knowles. What does it mean to eradicate transgenderism? What is transgenderism? What is gender ideology? It means trans people. There is no way to eradicate gender ideology while trans people are out freely walking the streets. Yeah, I would love to know what they say when we ask them to define gender ideology. I'm sure that they're gonna sidestep and they're gonna ooh and they're gonna ah and they're gonna not. Like, we know what they mean. It's like a dog whistle almost. We know what this means. By gender ideology, they don't mean like the ideology that is like you reinforcing and punishing your children for acting gender nonconforming, which is like, if there is any such thing as gender ideology, it is the ideology of binary gender. Yeah, let's learn the definition of weasel words. So he wants to eliminate the woke mind virus. He wants to eliminate transgender ideology. He wants to punish and jail anyone who provides this care to teenagers. Like young adults, functionally. Young people. People who are of an age where they can consent to sex. 16-year-olds can consent to sex in many places. But no, he wants to jail you. Also, like, yeah, he signed off on this gender care. Does that mean that he is involved? Like, he also is one of the people who is responsible for the sterilization of children, you know? Whatever. Anyway. This is like one of the most influential people on the planet. He has so much money. And therefore very, very much power. A lot of power. So I'm not sure what else there is to say about it, except that this man is extremely dangerous. He was abusive toward his kid, who ended up coming out as trans later. And then he called her a bitch. Not to her face, but, you know, over the phone, directly called his child a bitch, who like, you killed my son. Like, you killed my father. Prepare to die. I don't know. Like, Elon Musk is just trying too hard. Last month was Pride. Now it's time for Wrath. Thank you so much to my patrons, including Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Jack, Amanda B., Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Pasnell Infinity, Suzanne Maynard, Sojo, Jamie Jam, Desi Quiche, Jericho, Kevin Young, Liam Hodgson, Athiet, Elavie Nobody, Mr. Atheist, Elizabeth Bartell, Celeste, Nova, and Michelle Frattaroli.